Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. We finished off last night talking about MIT and their relationship to Jeffrey Epstein. So I figured today we'll stick in the same vein and we'll talk about Bill Gates a little bit. We're going to read an article from Vox, folks, and it's about the MIT report and how it's going to raises some questions about Bill Gates and Silicon Valley in general. We know that Jeffrey Epstein loved those kind of people, right? We know that he stylized himself as some sort of scientist, when in reality we all know he was just a jagoff. He was about as much of a scientist as I am an astronaut, okay? Jeffrey Epstein did not have the mental capacity to be a scientist, folks. I don't care what all these people tell you. Oh, he was so smart. No, he wasn't smart. He was conniving, and he liked to manipulate, all right? He wasn't this smart man. He wasn't this paragon of intelligence, okay? He was none of that. He was a brute who was molded and controlled and wielded as a weapon by Ghislaine Maxwell and her handlers. I am convinced of that. But Jeffrey Epstein, as a scientist, come on, man. Stop it. There is zero chance that this man was some sort of scientist. Just because he wanted to be around these scientists and he rolled in these circles doesn't make him a scientist, okay? Look, let me tell you what. I've rolled with plenty of high-profile, big-time professional gamblers that were betting $250,000 a game on Sundays, all right? That didn't make me a big-time gambler, folks. I was still going up to the window with my $50 and making my bet, all right? So just because you're rolling with people doesn't make you one of them. And Jeffrey Epstein wanted to be a scientist so bad, but the guy was a dumbass, all right? Straight up, point blank, the dude wasn't as smart as everybody wants you to believe he was. He was a conniver, a manipulator, and what he was very, 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 very good at, was bringing people around him close and locking them into his schemes. Okay? That's what he did with all the girls around him. Like I've said before, the parallel is very similar to Keith Raniere. What Keith Raniere did with Allison Mack and those girls around him, it's the same thing that Epstein did with his inner circle. The difference is Epstein was very, very blatant about things. He was in your face about everything. He had all the artwork on his walls, the pictures, everything was in plain sight for everybody to see. And for people like Bill Gates to say that they knew nothing about Jeffrey Epstein's behavior, when we all know the creepy, weird-ass artwork on Jeffrey Epstein's walls and that Bill Gates was at his house, it makes you think a little bit, folks, right? What does Bill Gates know? How much time did Bill Gates truly spend with Jeffrey Epstein? Well, we're going to read this article from Vox and see what they have to say about the whole situation. The article by Vox, the headline, "The new MIT report on Jeffrey Epstein raises questions about how much to blame billionaires like Bill Gates. How complicit was Silicon Valley?" Author Theodore Schleifer on January 10th, 2020 at 8:40 p.m. So last night this article was published. For months, tech billionaires have been on the ropes over the ties they maintained with money manager, pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein well after he was indicted and registered as a sex offender in 2008. And they should be. Why should tech billionaires get a pass? If you or I were hanging out with a convicted child molester, I'm pretty sure that people would have something to say, okay? You bring this guy around to your group of friends. How do you think your friends would react? Many of those connections centered around MIT's Media Lab, an institution popular in Silicon Valley and that had a concealed fundraising relationship with Epstein. Again, it was concealed because they knew it was wrong. Don't let them try and tell you, oh, we had no idea what was going on. We thought Jeffrey Epstein was a hell of a guy. No, you didn't. You knew exactly the kind of monster he was. But you didn't care. You knew what he was, and you did not care, and none of these excuses are going to make anyone believe you. But many of those billionaires, from Bill Gates to Reid Hoffman, weren't exactly revealing about their ties to Epstein when he was arrested this summer, or were at least quick to defend the Media Lab's leadership over the Epstein situation. They can't help themselves, folks. These sort of people cannot help themselves but to close ranks around each other. They think that they have to protect each other at all costs, no matter what. Bill Gates should have been demanding that the leadership from Media Lab step down. Anyone who was taking this money from Epstein and concealing it, oh, they knew exactly what they were doing, folks, and they shouldn't be getting paid leave, all right? They should be fired. They should be met with scorn in their community, in their professional community, and they should have to get a job at McDonald's or something, because they have no business being around these scientific projects if they're so easily manipulated by people like Epstein. And so many hoped that a months in the making external report from lawyers hired by MIT would finally put those questions to rest. But when the report was released Friday, investigators skirted direct answers and statements of fact, and ultimately failed to settle some of the basic questions about Silicon Valley's responsibility for nurturing Epstein. Of course they did. It's another, this is an outside independent investigation. No, it's not. You're investigating yourselves by people you hired. They're working on your dime, and I'm sure you told them what you want them to say and what you don't want them to say. All right? I don't believe any of these high-profile scientists at this point. I think they're all as complicit as people like Glenn Dubin, right? Anyone who was on this island with Jeffrey Epstein, these scientists who were on this island that were there for quote-unquote pleasure trips, need to be talked to. A Gates representative didn't return a request for comment. A Hoffman representative referred to an apology Hoffman issued earlier this year about his interactions with Epstein. Let's start with Gates. The until recently richest man in the world has consistently downplayed his ties to Epstein, telling one reporter, "I didn't have any business relationship or friendship with him." But Gates is among the tech billionaires with the most extensive, disclosed ties to Epstein. Whether Epstein and Gates did have a business relationship has been disputed. Gates did make a $2 million donation to the Media Lab in 2014. And Ronan Farrow reported in The New Yorker that Epstein was credited with securing the Gates money, with internal records saying that Epstein had directed the gift or made it at his instruction. So, $2 million from Bill Gates was donated to the Media Lab in 2014, and according to Epstein, he's the one who directed that gift, and it was made at his instruction. Gates is making this gift at the recommendation of a friend of his who wishes to remain anonymous, the record read. Gates' aides denied Epstein's direction of the gift, but if he did, as Farrow reported he did, it raises the possibility that Gates was somehow complicit in the image rehabilitation of Epstein and part of an unseemly cover-up. It wouldn't seem. That's exactly what he was and what he did. Bill Gates is very, 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 very guilty of being an enabler of Jeffrey Epstein. He should have never been anywhere near Jeffrey Epstein, folks. I don't care what the reason is. All right? You're Bill Gates. You're like the richest dude in the world, bro. You need to be hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein? You need him to help you direct your money? Why? Why? But MIT investigators did little to help establish truth and fiction in the situation. In 2014, Epstein claimed to have arranged for Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates to provide an anonymous $2 million donation to the Media Lab. MIT's lawyers wrote in the 63-page report, representatives of Bill Gates have told us that Gates flatly denies that Epstein had anything to do with Gates' donation. This, suffice it to say, skirts the question of who is telling the truth and, effectively, leaves it as an unresolved he said, she said. Just the way they like it, folks, right? Just enough of a smokescreen so nobody can make heads of tails of their behavior. Just enough obfuscation so nobody knows exactly what they're doing. This is how they love to operate. And they were able to do this on a regular basis before the internet showed up. They were able to do this on a regular basis before like-minded individuals like you and me and all the other people out there that are locked into this case got involved. Well, now their time is over. Okay? You're no longer going to gaslight us with the TV stations. You're no longer going to gaslight us with your legacy media, plant reporters. It is no longer going to happen. The American spring is upon us, folks, and the Great Awakening is occurring. When Ricode asked the lawyers involved in the report if this sidestep was intentional, they would only say that we didn't see any evidence that Gates or any Gates entity were donating money from Mr. Epstein or that they were donating money at the behest of Mr. Epstein. They use similar language, there is no evidence, to respond to a notion that Gates acted to launder Epstein's money by donating money that didn't belong to the Microsoft founder. Wow, folks, that's huge. If that's the case, then Bill Gates is complicit in the criminal operation of Jeffrey Epstein. Under RICO laws, Bill Gates could also be arrested and slapped with a RICO charge. If they can prove that this is the case, then Bill Gates is 100% engulfed in this, folks. That's huge. That is huge, 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 huge. If he was laundering money and this can be proven, oh, forget it. It just, again, it all fits right in to the RICO charges that I've talked about several times a day, it seems like. All right, this is definitely a RICO case, and especially if there's money laundering thrown in on top of it, wow. Where's the Department of Justice? In the report, MIT's investigators do not definitively say it did not happen, just that they didn't see any evidence of it. And that statement would then have to be reconciled with MIT's internal records, which offer at least some evidence to the contrary. While there are many reasons to doubt the credibility of Epstein of Joy Ito, the ousted head of the MIT Media Lab, there are also reasons why Gates and his denial should be scrutinized. 100%. All right? Bill Gates is no angel in this. Bill Gates was running with Jeffrey Epstein. They were homies. I don't want to hear, oh, no, they were, yeah, right. Nobody's donating $2 million anywhere unless people are friendly with each other. Despite Gates' public comments minimizing his ties to Epstein, the New York Times uncovered numerous instances of Epstein and Gates meeting privately, to say nothing of Gates' underlings. At one point, Gates told colleagues that the lifestyle of Epstein, who at that point was already a convicted sex offender, was intriguing. A spokesperson told the Times that the comment had nothing to do with Epstein's lurid past. Oh, no, I'm sure it didn't. He's just a very intriguing man. His life is just very intriguing. Bill Gates regrets ever meeting with Epstein and recognizes it was an error in judgment to do so, a Gates spokesperson told the paper this fall. That brings us to another Silicon Valley luminary who has apologized over Epstein. Reid Hoffman. The LinkedIn founder and political power broker has his own ties to Epstein through the Media Lab, where he sits on the advisory board. Hoffman helped raise money for the Media Lab, which involved fundraising solicitation meetings with the sex offender. This guy, okay, Reid Hoffman, he should be fired right away. He was a big-time enabler of Jeffrey Epstein, so much so that we're going to talk about him at length at some point. Reid Hoffman was just another one of these mofos, these scientific mofos that thought it was okay to take Jeffrey Epstein's money, who thought that everything had died down after the conviction and nobody was paying attention. Wrong. By agreeing to participate in any fundraising activity where Epstein was present, I helped to repair his reputation and perpetrate injustice. For this, I am deeply regretful, Hoffman said in September. Too little, too late, buddy. Too little, too late, Reid Hoffman. Hoffman has said that he vouched for Epstein because it told him that Epstein had cleared MIT's vetting process. He even went so far as to bring Epstein out to Palo Alto for a dinner with people like Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and Peter Thiel in 2015. Reminder, Epstein had been convicted on child prostitution charges for 7 years by this point. Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and Peter Thiel. 2015, folks. Everybody knew what Epstein was at this point, and yet they were still meeting with him. I guess money talks, huh? I guess money talks. That was the last time that Hoffman saw Epstein. But as recently as this August, Hoffman was standing up strongly for Ito and his handling of the Epstein situation. It took Hoffman until Farrow's story in September to apologize. And this new report from MIT makes it clear that Hoffman and Epstein had other interactions over the years. In July 2013, Epstein visited the MIT campus to meet with Hoffman and others, and Hoffman continued to be consulted on Epstein matters. In July 2016, Ito sought advice from Reid Hoffman about whether to allow Epstein to attend a conference, perhaps the announcement of the Media Lab Directors Fellows, with lots of people who may see him and maybe know he's involved, the authors write. They're covering it up. They can't act like they didn't know who Epstein was. Look at this. They knew exactly who he was. Exactly who he was, and they still associated with him, and they still brought him around, and they still gave him the credibility after his arrest that he so desired. What they don't write is that Hoffman actually advised Ito. That's one of many things that we still need to know to fully account for Silicon Valley's complicity in the Epstein saga. Folks, all of these people make me sick to my stomach. All of these enablers are just absolutely, positively lower than human excrement, in my opinion. If you knew who Jeffrey Epstein was and you knew what he was about and you still brought him into your world, into your atmosphere, you're a piece of shit. Point blank, period. All right? And I'll call you out on it. I'm going to call out all of these sick-ass enablers, everybody who enabled this dude. Because enough is enough. Enough is enough. How much more evidence is needed? How much more evidence is needed to bring these people to justice? You or I we'd already be under Gitmo probably. They would have sent us to a black site in Jordan. But Jeffrey Epstein and his people, come on, man. We can't arrest these guys. Oh, why not? Because they have too much dirt on people. What? It's so weird. It's so illogical. The whole entire thing is just so illogical to me. I don't understand how they can continue to walk free with all of the evidence that has been provided. And these scientists, forget it. These scientists they're just unbelievable. These people are unbelievable. They really thought that they were going to be able to deny all of this and nobody would find out what they were truly up to. Well, you're wrong. Welcome to the party, pal, as John McClane would say. All right, everybody, if you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. If you would like to help support the podcast, you can do that by clicking on the GoFundMe link inside of the description box. Also, the link to the story will also be in the description box. Go ahead and click on that bad boy and go take a look. All right, everybody, I'll be back later on with some more stuff. Enjoy your Saturday.